Hey there friends, Dave Paulides. This is another edition of the Canon Missing Project, copyrighted edition for our video channel, and this is all about missing people. So if you're looking for something else, not here. This is just about the missing. Let me start off by saying that back in October of 2021, a family from Mariposa, California disappeared just outside of the west entrance of Yosemite. And when they were found, they were all found in a very close proximity to one another. Couldn't figure out the cause of death. They eventually said that they thought it was due to heat, dehydration. Well, I don't think it made sense to a lot of people. A lot of us got upset about that. But what a lot of people didn't know is that they closed, the U.S. Department of Agriculture closed a good part of that area belonging to the U.S. Forest Service. They didn't know why they were closing for unknown reasons, and it stayed closed for a couple months. Somebody sent it to me this week just to remind me. I still think it was the Gerrish family, Gerrish. And again, I made a video about it. Very strange circumstances about that whole incident. When people die from dehydration, not everyone consumes water at the same rate, uses water, etc. So to all lay down and die within even eye shot of each other on a trail. Very odd. So, got a pretty big action-packed episode for you this time. Get right to the letter. First of all, Dave, thanks for all you do in raising awareness about missing people, unexplainable events, wilderness safety, and most importantly, mental health. Great place to start. I just am back from my grief counselor. It was a good session. And part of the grieving process, everybody in this watching this video is going to go through it for something in their life. But part of that grieving process is being appreciative for the relationship you had with that person. For me, my counseling centered around Ben. And part of that appreciation process was vocalizing why I am greatly appreciated. He gifted me 29 years of his life. And when you sit down and you start to talk about it to a counselor, to somebody who's not related to you, I wrote all these things down in a book that I read about this. I explained to him that Ben introduced me to hockey. I learned to coach. Went to coaching school all across the U.S. Got the highest certification from USA Hockey. Coached with a USA Hockey team. Was out part of an observation that I did there. He exposed me to a lot of good things in life. I met a lot of really nice people, players' families, etc. Then also, he exposed me to something I knew nothing about. That's what we're doing right here, YouTube. He explained to me how, and I really didn't get this at the time, he explained to me that younger people rarely read books unless you have to for school. But they like to get a lot of their things straight from video. He said, Dad, you can reach a huge portion of the world by doing a video. And then you recommended we do a video. We did. And if you go back through the linkage here and you go back to the first few videos loaded here that have a black face plate on them with a person's name on it and a photo, those are the ones that Ben did. Then you think about his transition to get me into a film. And to do a film. I mean, that wasn't even 1/1000th of 1% of my brain at any time. It was all him. So, and then how much of my life for those last 29 years occupied with Ben? A lot. Then he made me the proudest dad in the world by being Miami at Ohio's Academic Athlete of the Year. You know, we all want our kids to do well in sports, cheered for them every game. But then, while playing for one of the best teams in the nation, top 3, then not majoring in recreation or physical education, but going for a straight up business degree. Man, that made me proud. He worked his butt off. So part of grieving is appreciating. And I don't think I ever lost that. You know, it's a process. You go through shock and anger and they go through this line of progression of things, and they say this is the way you should go through it. I don't think there's any way anyone should go through it. I think it's your way. I think talking to someone who has counseled others helped me a lot. Just hearing from the counselor how others handled similar loss. Yeah. So maybe it's one time a week. I'll sit down at lunch, buy a paper, and read the local paper. And just before my counseling session today, I was sitting down with the Daily Interlaker. It's a local newspaper in Kalispell. It has maybe 7 or 8 pages in it, not very big. But I was thumbing through, and there's a obituary and a picture of a guy, young, 50s maybe. Every once in a while I'll read these, because the life that some people have had is amazing. Well, as I read through this man's obituary, the last thing was, please give donations to the American Society of Suicide Prevention. I just knew he took his life. His first name was Ben. I took the article in, sat down with the counselor, and handed this to her. She says, Dave, look at the obituary right above it. It was much smaller. It dealt with a 24-year-old man who died. And I made the point that, it's so rare that I even read these things. And the guy's name was Ben. And she explained to me that many people that are going through grieving, that are focused on something, a location, a color, for some reason that tends to come up a lot. And I don't look for it. I'll be darned if it finds me. Probably was nothing. Probably get chastised for it, even bringing it up, but for what it's worth. Yeah, this article that I was reading was a good transition to what I wanted to say to you. So, the story goes on. It says, I came across a truly fascinating scientific phenomenon that I thought I'd share with you and your audience. It's called the wisdom of the crowd. And it's something that's been repeatedly detected in groups of humans and in animals as well. The idea is that a large group of people made up of independently thinking with diverse backgrounds, perspectives, and ways of thinking are collectively far smarter than any expert when it comes to decision making, problem solving, and predicting, which is why we're all here. Help each other. One of the first recorded examples of this phenomenon occurred in 1906 at a county fair when 800 people took part in a contest to correctly guess the weight of an ox. The winner got to take home the slaughtered beast's meat. The statistician Francis Galton reviewed the contest data and found that the median guess was 1,207 pounds, was accurate to within an astounding 1% of the ox's true weight of 1,198 pounds. The collective group estimate was impossibly accurate, far more accurate than any of the individual guesses were. Even an expert butcher simply looking at the animal would have been incapable of duplicating the feat. Yet somehow the crowd did it. Another example occurred in 1968 when a U.S. Navy submarine, the Scorpion, was lost at sea and the Navy was unable to locate it. John Craven, a naval officer, decided to try to harness the wisdom of a crowd in an effort to find the wrecked sub. He asked a wide-ranging group of diverse individuals to evaluate the available data, think about possible scenarios, and then guess the submarine's location. They then sent a ship out to the location. The group's average guess turned out to be a mere 220 yards from where the wreck of the Scorpion was found to be. How is this possible? It is thought that the phenomenon occurs because of a certain amount of idiosyncratic noise that's associated with an individual person's judgment. We each have a unique perspective that impacts what we perceive and how we make decisions. However, if you average the responses made by a large and diverse group of people, the noise is filtered out and the truth of the things can be seen more clearly. As I previously mentioned, the wisdom of the crowds has been observed in animals as well. Individual golden shiner fish, for instance, are very bad at locating shady areas in a body of water, which they prefer. But a large group of shiners is capable of finding shade much more quickly and efficiently than any one fish could do. Now, there are a few caveats to this. I think that may be in part to explain some of the social problems we're currently having in the U.S. Number one, the group must be diverse. Not simply diverse in skin color, religion, or whatnot, but diverse in outlook, background, perspective, and thinking. A group in which everyone thinks the same way is a group incapable of making good decisions because of the extremeness of the noise. The individual members of the group must be independent thinkers who have access to accurate information. If the group members are influenced by outside sources through the media, fake news, social pressure, etc., then the wisdom of the crowd phenomenon will not occur. In fact, group decision-making may become more worse, or even more worse, than individual making. In the past, this natural process was used by groups to help improve decision-making and the likelihood of identifying the correct path. We can see the underlying concept presented in both Enlightenment thinking and in how the Founding Fathers set up our government. The idea that a well-informed group of free-thinking people is best positioned to make decisions. The importance of a healthy debate of why we are voting and why we have juries. Those things are fundamental to our society, and their foundation is likely based on this underlying phenomenon. However, today's political environment makes the wisdom of the crowd increasingly difficult to access. Some ideas and viewpoints are publicly championed while others are actively suppressed. Think about that for a second. Certain platforms out there are calling something misinformation, which later turns out to be totally true, but certain platforms are restricting, abolishing, eliminating, stopping all functioning conversation. So you can kind of see how this is true. Questions can't be asked and certain thoughts and perspectives are deemed unacceptable. Extremes in thinking are actively encouraged, and individuals are constantly subjected to forces in media and advertising that seek to manipulate them. Differences of opinion is no longer valued. Free and civil debate has largely vanished. I think a lot of people either have never been trained or have never learned how to give someone a contrarian view in a positive, upbeat, non-derogatory, acceptable manner. It's not easy. Some people will be on the defensive before you even start talking, and then that's a real uphill fight. As an aside, I'd be very curious to know what the wisdom of the crowd would make of the information in your books. Suppose a large, diverse group of people were presented with the facts and then asked what they thought was causing these disappearances. We talk about that every video almost. Would collective human consciousness somehow be able to push past the noise and point us toward an answer? No telling. Well, I think in a weird kind of way, that's why the village is here. I want to hear everyone's opinions about what they think is happening. I value somebody who's invested time in reading, because reading, there's much more in those books than in what I give you here on a video. Next one. Dear Mr. Paulides, I'm a fan and supporter of your work. I don't subscribe to YouTube channels. That was before I stumbled across yours. I'm a subscriber. Please forgive my grammar, as I am not a very good writer. Hey, you're doing well, don't worry. I'm from Texas, grew up working in the oil fields and being constantly outdoors. I hunt and fish and love solitude. Bingo, that's me. Life experiences reflect as such. About some 30-odd years ago, I was frog hunting on a stick pond late one hot summer night. That is something I've never done. I have had frog before, and it's very good. But I've never done this. This particular body of water covered about 2 acres. I used a powerful flashlight and methodically made my way around the water's edge. I shined the light, get up close to the huge bullfrogs, and picked them off with my .22. They're mighty fine eating. The stick pond I was on is in north central Texas. I've been to it many times. I had my dog with me as usual. I was making my way around the water, and I heard the sound of laughter as plain as day. Out of nowhere. I was not near any houses or properties of any kind. My dog heard it too. Stopped dead in his tracks. I could still remember him standing there puzzled as I was, and how he was posturing with his head turned sideways like a dog will do. Yeah. I heard the voice of laughter again, and it sounded like more than just a few voices. But I knew this property. I ran oil well service equipment on it. It was like 2 a.m. in the morning. The sounding area was open. No cover really, just open dark space. Nobody was there but me and my dog. My pickup truck was parked about 300 yards away. It startled the heck out of me, and I began to quickly hightail it back to the truck. I heard the eerie laughing behind me again. Another thing that happened was it seemed like it took me longer than it should have to get back to my truck. It was beyond bizarre. I never went back to this location again. I had to go back to that property again to work, but that was during daytime. But no more pitch black dark night frog hunting endeavors. It gives me the chills to think about it. I don't know how to elaborate to someone how strange this was. When I think about it, I get knots in my stomach. It's a crazy world we live in. This was an experience I'll never forget. It was as real to me as the air I breathe. I'll never talk about it to anyone, but I felt like sharing it. Thanks a million for what you do, and giving your folks like me a shouting billboard. So, that is pretty interesting. I've never had that happen to me. But, there is technology out there. I'll call it a blanket. And I've seen it displayed. A standard size blanket. 7 feet long, 4.5 feet wide, 5 feet wide. And when you hold the blanket in front of you, it looks directly like the background. It's as though you're completely gone. It's some amazing technology. The point behind this, somebody could be using that technology on that property just as to practice with it. Who knows? I wouldn't, because if you had a gun and shot, it wouldn't be a good ending. But that is the type of stealth technology that exists today. Some of it. Next letter. Hey Dave, sorry about your son Ben. You're in my prayers. I believe what happened to me was divine intervention. Sunday evening, November 10th, 2019, 6 p.m. I was going to travel from my home in Trumbull, Connecticut, via Route 15 and the Merritt Parkway to Walmart in Milford, Connecticut. Milford, they have a great flea market there. I planned to leave, but dozed off and fell into a deep sleep. I woke up 7:40 and was deciding whether to still go. After going back and forth in my head, I decided Walmart was still open till 11, so I'd go. I was getting onto the ramp to the Merritt Parkway, and on the ramp was a local Trumbull police cruiser getting on the Merritt to go one exit to get off at the end of town. The police cruiser was approximately 2 to 3 minutes ahead of me now on the Parkway Route 15. I was driving along northbound on Route 15 and suddenly became aware of an accident on the southbound side. I suddenly saw something on my side of the parkway. I thought it might be a rooftop carrier or duffel bag. I suddenly realized it was a body laying in the road. Came to a complete stop, put my hazards on, got my flashlight out of the glove box and jumped to stop traffic behind me. 2 other good Samaritans jumped out and the 3 of us managed to stop the traffic from running over the body in the road. I ran over to the person in the road and it appeared to... Get this now. I ran over to the person in the road and it appeared to be me. It appeared to me... Sorry about that, I'll start again. I ran over to the person in the road and it appeared to me to be a young woman. I thought to be in her 30s. I'm 63. She was laying on her back with her eyes closed, unconscious, no visible trauma or blood, and it looked as if she was sleeping. I talked to her and told her that we called for help and we would stay with her until the ambulance came to get her. And I asked if she could hear me. I do not know CPR, but I wish I did, although I doubt it would have helped. A woman on scene took her pulse, and when I asked if she had gotten anything, she shook her head no. Found out later that she had rolled her Ford Explorer, was ejected out the driver's window, flew 60 feet through the air, over the barrier, and into the center of the northbound lanes. We waited with her until the ambulance took her to the hospital. Okay, for the divine intervention part. The next day in the news, I found out that she was 59 years old, and I had dated her back in 78. I knew her throughout high school. We were good friends, and during the summer of 78 we were dating. She used to ride on the back of my motorcycle all the time. I hadn't seen her since 1988. Turns out she's married and lives in the next town over. Now ask yourself, what are the odds that I decided to fall asleep, woke up, and still decided to go to Walmart? If the police cruiser had gotten there first, they would have stopped the traffic. I would have been stuck in traffic, never saw her. The accident had to happen between when the police car had passed that spot and when I had gotten there. And though I did not know it was her, I did talk to her to try to comfort her, and I believe she heard me somehow, or her spirit heard me and comforted her that awful night. Take care, Dave. God bless. When I read this, it reminded me of something. Now, we've talked about this crossing of paths in time. So, when I was on the MERGE team, that's the Mobile Emergency Response Group and Equipment team for the city of San Jose. It's a SWAT team. And when I was there, we had 4 teams. Everybody worked in a 2-man car. The car was painted one solid color, but it was the same kind of police cars that everyone drove. But it was just one solid color with no markings on the side. And when we weren't doing SWAT functions, we were supposed to go out and work high crime areas. On this one night, my partner got sick, couldn't come in. Remember that. So that night, I made a couple of arrests, finished my reports, had a couple hours left. I would work from 5 at night till 3 in the morning. That was our shift. So I was working the southeast side of the city, and I was driving through downtown, just on the south side of San Jose State University, which is right in downtown San Jose. It was one street over from the university. 25-mile zone. I'm driving. Hardly anybody on the street at 2:20, 2:25. I usually got back to the police department at 2:30, unloaded the car, filed my reports, and went home. So it's about 2:20. And on the road in front of me is a pretty big guy, and he has a 2x4 about 5 or 6 feet long over his shoulder, walking right down the middle of the road towards me in the direction I'm going. Well, that's not right. Downtown San Jose at that time had a lot of crime. So I stopped my car. It's about a block between me and him, and I tell communications, I'm going to be stopping a man with a long 2x4, send another unit. So he's still walking my way, so I just stopped the car, got out. He's about 20 feet in front of the police car, and I said, hey, stop. You see I'm a policeman. You see my red lights that I just turned on, so put down the 2x4. And he almost growls. I don't understand what he says. He keeps moving forward, and I said, come on, man, don't keep coming. Stop. And we didn't have tasers then. All we have is baton and a gun. Well, I'm not going to play baton against 2x4. I'd lose. And he was bigger than me. So I'm 6'1", about 200. This guy was about 6'4", 6'5", big. So he keeps advancing towards my side, the driver's side of the police car. And so I get on the radio and I said, yeah, expedite 2 units. And that means lights and sirens fast. So I draw my gun, I took 1 step back, and I said, hey, this is no game. Stop now or you're going to get shot. Stop or you're going to get shot. And he's closing on me. So you learn by going through recreations. People with guns, knives, bats, how quickly they can close a 10-foot, 15-foot distance on you. Fast. And when you're talking, you're not thinking with your gun. So you don't want to talk a lot. And he's at about that 15-foot mark, and I'm telling myself, at 10 feet, I'm shooting. And just then, lights and sirens come around the corner, and the guy freezes. I got my gun pointed right at his chest. I had pressure on the trigger, I guarantee it. He stops, he freezes, he just drops it, puts his hands up. I'm thinking, oh gosh, thank you. So I just hold him at gunpoint. More officers get there. We handcuff him and put him in one of the other caged patrol cars. I didn't have one. And I went over there and I talked to him. And it was mental illness. He was a mentally ill guy, had problems, and the reality of mental illness is I have a choice as a policeman at this point. I could put him into Valley Medical Center on a 72-hour hold, maximum that I could put him on. 5150, the Welfare and Institutions Act. And if a psychiatrist interviews him and doesn't deem him a danger to himself or others, he can release him before the 72 hours are up. If they want to keep him past 72 hours, they have to file some paperwork. Now, the other option is that I arrest him and I put him in jail with an affidavit of what happened and how close he came to being shot and how I felt he was a danger to the community. He has to go into a judge and he has to face bail. Well, in my report, I would also recommend that he go through a mental health check as well. And that's what I did. because there's nothing to guarantee that this person will ever get more help if he just goes on a 3-day hold. Sad state, a sad state of our mental health system. But anyhow, talking about crossing paths in time. If I had gone through that intersection 3 minutes earlier, I never would have seen this guy. And he might have met an officer that didn't have the patience I did. He might have met somebody on the road, walking on the sidewalk, a student, and injured him. Who knows? But it's that crossroad in time. We never know what's going to happen. I titled this letter, Mental Health, a Powerful Letter. Dave, I'm a 54-year-old combat veteran. I have suffered from depression most of my life, along with a very unhealthy, nihilistic belief that absolutely nothing I have or would ever do mean anything of value. I did have a marriage that produced 2 children and have become a great blessing to me. In 2011-12, I was deployed to Afghanistan. What I witnessed there confirmed my belief that nothing mattered. On New Year's Day 2017, I was in a bad motorcycle wreck, leaving me with a major head injury, resulting in having C4 through 6 fused. Needless to say, my morale went into the sub-basement. I called the Veterans Crisis Line only to have a woman on the other end hang up on me. Wow. In March of 2018, I'd had enough. I drank half a gallon of moonshine, took 60 sleeping pills. To my surprise, I woke up over 28 hours of missing time. Still in my funeral clothes and a letter on my chest. At this point, I reached out to a few vet friends that I now call brother. I was able to get into treatment and was doing so. In 2019, I moved down to Arizona to help my mother as my father had passed away. Did okay for a while. But with the entire COVID crap, I got depressed again, to the point that I started looking for a way not to just kill myself, but to absolutely unmake my soul from existing. In June of 2021, I sat down and wrote another letter. This time I reached out to people. I got help at the Prescott VA. Great people. This last Friday on September 24th, I was baptized. I found purpose for the first time in 54 years. I just wanted to share this with you. As watching you go through that part of the pain of your son, I now realize what I was going to do to my family, and I truly feel shame and sorrow for this. I now have hope, enjoying my life, and I'm slowly learning to live. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Do not stop sharing your story. It helps more than you know. May our Father in heaven bless you, keep you in the joy of this world. The point of that letter is reality isn't the second you're there. Your reality is different tomorrow at the same time than it is today, right now. Your view of the universe right now won't be the same as it is tomorrow at the same time. Just waiting for the next sun to come up can change your whole perspective. And I want people to understand that. I think it's important, as this man just did. Thank you. Title of this one, I said, did we make a deal? This person said, Dave, our family's been following your work for a year and a half now. We enjoy your videos and your books. Your work is comprehensive and thorough and amazing detailed compared to almost all the other journalism out there. I think deeply about many of these things that you cover and ask for truth and guidance from the Creator. Some thoughts that have come to me lately, which are just mostly rhetorical thoughts, I thought I'd share. Most religious texts claim to have it all figured out about who we are, where we came from, and what we need to do to earn or to get a chance at heaven or paradise. I've never wanted to gravitate towards one single religion giving us the full truth. Intuitively, I know that through the ages there have been much hijacking in all religions due to those in seemingly higher positions who want to control those in lower. What if we are way more powerful than we think? What if we have everything, all the truth encoded in our souls already? And we came to this planet and were put into the matrix or a hijacked state. Agreed to lose our memories or who we are and where we're from in the universe. Again, rhetorical thoughts again. Prior to being born onto this planet, did we make soul contracts as higher forms of life that chose to come here and take on a lower, more slave-type existence or experience duality? Separation from divine source. Are there different levels of consciousness or vibrational energy that can take form or choose not to take form? Like some of the strange incidences where something is there or felt but can't be seen, or there's a distortion that we can't perceive with our eyes. Did we plan every detail in our physical life here on the planet? Did we decide when we were going to leave? Die, our body, leave it? Assignment might be a better word. And then when we choose to leave this planet, go back to where we came from. Do we get all the memories back and know fully who we are in our history? Do animals make the same choices, or are they at a different level than humans? Do the people that go missing plan prior to being here in physical form on this planet, on their exit being a disappearance in some cause with no leads? Do they meet up with something on this planet not seen by our human eyes that our physical brains don't comprehend, but maybe our souls do? Maybe those that are found but can't remember what happened literally had their minds wiped before they were found. Well, that's what a lot of abductees say happens to them. Or maybe they were in a different dimensional time and space and coming back to our dimension physical time, space, looks and access. Or maybe they were in a different dimensional time space and coming back to our dimensional physical time space locks access to those memories. Do these people that disappear consent to being taken by something? And again, here I can speculate as to what, especially in these cases where there's no traces ever found. Did they plan to leave clues like shoes but never their bodies? Is it maybe an effort to wake those around them due to something greater than ourselves? Is there something out there trying to break through the barrier of our indoctrinated, programmed physical brains? Do the families that lost the loved ones have that in their soul contracts as well? Do they just forgot when they were in human form with a human brain? Scientists do say that we are only using 5% of our brain capacity. Well, that's about 95% locked up to memories or DNA that we are not able to access. So, a while back, I was with Angie and some other people, and a deer ran out of in front of my truck, and I killed the deer. I felt horrible. Really bad. I didn't even give two craps about my truck. Honestly, I cared more about the deer. But it destroyed the truck. So this person said, did the deer you hit at an energy and vibrational soul level plan to leave the planet that way? Is there order in the seeming chaos that our physical mind just cannot see or perceive? Is the soul playing out a role in the background? I know there's something greater out there than we can fully understand with our human minds right now. I feel like many of these things are put in our path to wake us up, to make us question and ask for the truth. Maybe the truth can be found, or at least grasped to a point, and in knowingly, understandingly can lead to a more peace in our daily lives. When in so many cases being a human seems very dark and hopeless at times. Like we've been stuck or asleep and are just staring at coming out of a slumber. I always feel like there's something just right outside of my grasp and I can't quite see or feel or touch what it is, like another dimension parallel to mine. I guess that's faith. I'm grateful to you and what you do. I'm glad that you are continuing to put these videos out there considering the pain that you have been through going with the loss of Ben. It shows an amazing amount of courage and strength when many others would completely buckle. I'm not saying that you don't have your bad days, because that's normal and human, but you're overcoming it one day at a time. Sadly, society has conditioned us not to feel and not to show our pain or emotions, especially with men in society. Men are told and taught and indoctrinated to be tough, hard, and suck it up. How out of balance is that? It's awful. Grieve when need to grieve, and laugh as much as you can when the opportunities arise. Do things that make you laugh and things that make you happy. I don't think you realize what a role model you are. I want you to know our kids are gratefully benefiting from watching your content, reading your books. You have integrity. Everything you do matters. We love you, Dave. Thank you. It was a really good email. Makes you think. Makes you think if animals are truly a lower level soul than we are. I can remember when I was young, I had a dog for 16 years, German Shepherd. I can remember coming back from college. She was dying of cancer. It was no less soul to me. I can remember sitting in the garage. She was sitting across my lap. She probably didn't have 2 hours to live. But everybody in the family knew that her and I were best pals. So if animals do have a lower soul, they sure strike people in a different way. I can think of the animals I had over my lifetime, and they meant the world to me. Heck, I'd rather break my arm than have my dog break its leg. Okay. We got stories for you today. Real interesting ones, to say the least. So, how many people out there have seen Vanished? You can watch it on Amazon. It's a History Channel special that I did. It's a 2-hour special. I was hired by Prometheus, same people that do Ancient Aliens and Skinwalker. And part of Vanished had to do with a man who disappeared on Mount Shasta, Northern California. His name was Carl Landers. Carl was with 2 really good friends. They tried to summit the year before. Carl didn't. Now they were coming back to do it again. They spent the night on the side of Mount Shasta, about halfway up. And we went to that location. And from that location to the summit, you could easily do it in half a day. There's no big holes in the ice on Shasta. There's no crevasses. And I personally interviewed the head of the search and rescue at the time. And in his words, he said, Carl's not on. He may be in, but he's not on this mountain. That was his words. because he was 1,000% convinced that his men had covered the mountain and there was nothing there. No equipment, no nothing. Now, why did I tell you that? Because this next story I'm going to tell you about kind of deals with Mount Shasta. Let me show you this map. So, this is Mount Shasta up here. This is Weed, W-E-E-D, California. And this is a search zone 23 miles southeast from Mount Shasta. Not very far. Now, I've documented people that have disappeared here, here, all over this area. But when I found this one was a first. Now, let me tell you one more disappearance. So, that was on the side of Mount Shasta, Carl Landers. Also, a man was hunting over here. That man was from Oregon, came down to go bow hunting, told everyone where he was going. He was in the prime of life, great health. And he didn't come back to his farm. Family called the police, called the sheriff. They went out. Took them about a day, but they found the truck. And this was essentially in the shadow of Mount Shasta. Searched for a week and a half, found nothing. He's never been found. Carl's never been found. And I should tell you that if you watch Vanished, I don't get a penny of that. So I don't care if you do or you don't. Go to Amazon.com. It costs you like $2. You can watch it. But we filmed right on Shasta. And the area where Carl disappeared, there's nothing on that mountain but rocks, boulders. No place to hide. And he was in front of his two friends when he was walking up. They put their heads down and they had to pack their tents. They wanted to give him a lead because Carl wasn't feeling good that day. So he takes off. They guesstimated he had, I guess, a 20-minute, 30-minute head start. But they were a lot faster. So they packed up everything, got up, looked around, didn't see Carl. So they went up to a lake on the side of Shasta where a ranger takes notes about who's going to the final summit location. Carl's name wasn't on there. So they looked behind him, there's nobody on the mountain. The whole thing was strange. And the same with this hunter who disappeared on the east side of Shasta. Now this incident, I talk about women disappearing in the wilderness all that often. But this lady, Loretta Thomas, 68 years old, missing June 3rd, 1979. It's a Sunday. Her and her husband, Isaac, who was 80 years old, were from an area called Klamath Falls in Oregon. Nice community. They both retired. They came down into this national forest and they decided they were going to camp out for about 5 or 6 weeks. And they were going to do two things. They were going to cut fence posts and they were going to collect honey. On this morning, they were collecting honey. I have never heard of anybody going into the woods and collecting honey. This was a first. But apparently they were good at it. Now, Loretta had a hearing impairment. She wasn't totally deaf, and she wore hearing aids. One article said that they didn't think the batteries were working in the hearing aids that day, but they ran out. But Isaac said that they went out. She came and somehow told him that she was going back to the trailer. So he waited a little bit more and went back. She wasn't there. He waited till 4 o'clock looking for her, couldn't find her. And went to the Forest Service camp in Burny, B-U-R-N-E-Y, California, and reported his wife missing. So the days in that area during the summer can be brutally hot. I mean, really hot. Just so you know, so this is the map. The area of the search was around Big Bend. This whole area out in here, I have searched a ton, especially the McCloud River. Sacramento River follows I-5. Shasta Dam. So you start searching, and they weren't finding anything. So they decided that they were going to get a military helicopter in there. On June 5th, the helicopter comes in, picks up 2 deputies, starts to lift off. Gets about 1,000 feet off the ground. Engine failure, and it crashes. Nobody was seriously injured. It was miraculous. But, excuse me, I talked about this before. An inordinate amount of airplane crashes occur on these disappearances. This is another one. On June 6th, they had 100 searchers in there. Special canine teams, equestrians, all-terrain vehicles. Didn't find anything. Now remember, they've been camped in the same place for 6 weeks. The husband didn't think that the wife could get lost. They found no evidence of animal predation. On the 7th, the sheriff fitted the family's lab with a GPS locator and had the lab take off into the woods. Well, it did. And it was gone for a couple hours. Eventually came back. Nothing. Didn't come back with anything. They followed the GPS track of the dog. Found nothing. And the incident commander said that the dog was back less than 5 minutes and fell dead asleep at the campsite. Okay. So search and rescue is terminated on June 8th. Missing a total of 5 days. Never found. Think about this. This is still somewhat in the shadows of Mount Shasta, 20 some odd miles away. Woman had a disability. They bring canines in, they can't find anything. There's an aircraft crash. They're right near water. They're adjacent to the Pitt Reservoir area. Weather was over 100 degrees. Searchers couldn't stay out all day. They had to come in and rest. She's never found. Give you the map again. This is Bernie, where the husband came to report. There's a road, dirt road, that goes from Montgomery Creek up to Big Bend. This is the Pitt River access area right in here. This is very thick forest going all the way to Shasta. Again, this area out here in the summertime. Thick, big pine trees, but wow, does it get hot. I can remember many days that I'd fish in the McCloud River or the Sacramento River in shorts, no shirt, big floppy hat, and catch tons of fish. But lots of disappearances in this area of Northern California. So, 2 more cases to tell you about. Got the maps in front of me here. Next disappearance involves a young boy, 3 years old. So start thinking to yourself, how far can a 3-year-old wander on their own without shoes? Think about that. October 9th, 1935, San Jacinto Mountains in Southern California. Proctor Baker was at his house. Didn't have any shoes on, was wearing a sunsuit. And he wandered away somehow. Never had before. Mom said she came outside, only left him alone a short period of time, and he was gone. Sheriff gets there within minutes of the call. They start to get more horsepower there. And they start to search, and they're not finding anything. The sheriff makes a call to March Air Force Base. Let me show you a map. So, this is the map of the area. The boy disappeared near a location called Nightingale. This is March Air Force Base. This is Sycamore Springs. Los Angeles would be down in this area, or actually up in this area. And the coast of California would be down in here. Over in this area would be Palm Springs, Palm Desert. So a lot of this was very hot, Scrub Oak area. It was October 9th, 1935. Father was a prospector. Sheriff realizes he's going to need help, so he calls in some CCC workers that were nearby. It got really cold that first night. They were living east of Nightingale Camp, area is now called Pinyon Pines. The sheriff was smart, and he made a contact at the Santa Rosa Native American Reservation, and he said, hey, I need your best trackers. If you don't know this, best trackers in the world are Native Americans. And if I ever had a search, I'd call them. They're that good. Well, they come in, and they track the boy 10 miles first day, and it gets dark, and they have to back out. Next morning, they find him, and he's 6 air miles from home and about 11 miles from where he was last seen, his home. But you see, friends, 6 air miles from where you're last seen, 95% of all, this is in search and rescue manuals, 95% of all 3-year-olds will be found in a mountain region 2.8 miles or less from the point that they disappeared. So, Proctor's 6 miles, the way the way a crow flies, but he probably walked 10, 11 miles at least. There was never any mention of the condition of his feet. He was found in very thick brush, and he lived. Astounding. No animal predation. They were afraid because there was a lot of mountain lions in the area, but he was never touched. It's one of those stories that's very hard to believe, because as I've said, kids don't move at night. So you're meant to believe that 3-year-old walked 10 miles that first day in bare feet? I don't think so. How he got there? I don't have one clue. So, next one involves a hunter. A hunter is a subgroup in our profile. So many hunters have disappeared and never been found. It makes no sense. Hunters usually hunt the same area year over year. Hunters usually know their area very well, and they have a retrieval system in their arms. It's called a rifle. Fire that 3 times in rapid succession. That tells the other people around you need help, and they can hone in on the gun. Never hunt with less than 15 rounds because of that exact 3-round burst reason. Next case involves somebody named Charles Lynch, 51 years old, missing July 21st, 1944. He was hunting in an area called McNaughton in Wisconsin. He'd been hunting for 30 years. He was considered an optimum outdoorsman. He had worked at the Rhinelander paper mill for 23 years. And he worked with the paper machines. He was considered very reliable, level-headed, and smart. Well, the ride dropped him off at noon. He said, come back at 3. They came back at 3. He wasn't there. They waited till 7. He didn't show up. They went back into town, got the sheriff, got assistance. Before long, the mill was shut down. There were hundreds looking in this area of this fire cut for Charles. Well, within a day, his sons found out, and they all responded, assisted with the search. I want you to notice a few things here. So, he's hunting up in this area. Residence was down in here. This is Rhinelander, Wisconsin. All the blue is water. Lots of water. Within a 50-mile radius of this location, there's many other people, a lot of hunters that have also disappeared. And then up in this far area up in here, we've talked about the U.S. Air Force chasing a UFO over one of the Great Lakes. So, very strange area. Now, for 1944, this is one of the longest searches I'd ever heard of. It lasted 14 days. Amazing. So he's a hunter, missing in a cluster zone, water everywhere. They never found any tracks. What happened to Charles Lynch? There's never any mention of him being sick or injured or disability. Where'd he go? So, Proctor Baker, 3 years old, October 9th, 1935. Miles from his house. Loretta Thomas, 68, missing Northern California. Never found. These are all people with families. What happened to them? I greatly appreciate you being here. Thanks for listening to the stories. Please pass them on to others. We're coming up on springtime. The more people that can get this information in their pocket, the better. Do not purchase my books anywhere online other than our website, or you'll pay too much money. $24.99 each. The link to our site to purchase books is right on the pinned first statement of this video. I'm humbled every time I can come to you. Thank you for listening. Be kind, people. Do something nice for someone in the community. Now go fill up your coffee. Have a good day. And Dave will be back soon. Paulides out.